welcome to session 5 of Unit 4. And in this session, we'll be looking at physics laboratory safety. My name is Patrick Ejay. Now, at the end of this session, you should be able to explain how to record accidents that occur in the physics laboratory. Describe the responsibilities of the physics teacher when students are engaged in performing experiments in the physics laboratory. List the safety equipment required in a physics laboratory and set down rules for students' compliance while in the physics laboratory. So let us look at recording accidents. And so far as we are dealing with apparatus, we are dealing with equipment such as retor stands, such as gas, electricity. Accidents are bound to happen in the physics laboratory. And for that reason, as a teacher, you must keep records of all accidents that occur in the physics laboratory. The accidents may include minor burns as well as cuts. You should try as much as possible to have a record of all these kind of accidents in the laboratory. And the recording can be done on suitable cards or preferably in a notebook. So you can have one notebook that is designated for accidents in the laboratory so that anytime an accident happens in the laboratory, you record the various details concerning the accident in that particular book. Or you can have an accident recording form that anytime an accident happens, you just fill the form, you provide the various details that are required on that particular form. And so let's take an example of how an accident record form will look like. This is a typical example of an accident record form that you as a teacher, you can develop for it to be used in your physics laboratory whenever you are having practical sessions with your learners. So every form must have a date. It is very important, the date, for us to know when the accident happened, the time. So on 21st December 2022 at 12:30, this happened. So the time is very important. The name, if it happened to a student, you must write the name of the student or students. You write the names of these students. If it happened to the teacher, you must do same. The nature of the injury. Is it a cut? Was it a burn? You must state the nature of the injury on the form. What treatment was given? What was the first aid that was provided to the injured person? So the first aid that you provided, you must also state it on the form. And the follow-up. Maybe after the first aid, the student was then taken to the hospital. You must also record this on the form. And you must state the cause of the accident. Was it due to electrical fault? Was it improper handling of an apparatus or equipment? You must state the cause. And finally, the nature of experiment that was being conducted. What kind of experiment was being conducted that led students to have such an injury, or that led to the students not handling an apparatus or equipment well, that led to, let's say, an accident in the laboratory? And let me put out this question. Why do you think it is very important to state the nature of the experiment being conducted on the form? Good. So think about this question and present your answer when we meet in our next session. Now, when students are also performing experiments, what must you ensure as a teacher? And so you should be guided by the following rules as a teacher in the laboratory anytime your learners are performing an experiment. Never leave the students unattended in the laboratory while they are performing experiments. Always make sure you attend to your students. So never leave them unattended to. Always attend to them. They may be having challenges. Sometimes it may be how to handle a certain apparatus or a certain equipment. Attend to your learners. You should know the experiment to be performed by your students. So as a teacher, you must know the outcome of the experiment that your learners are going to perform. you should be able to perform that experiment yourself. It shouldn't be the time the learners are performing that will also be the time you are going to learn. When your learners are encountering a challenge or a difficulty, it becomes very difficult for you to identify. And even when they are not doing the right thing, because you have not performed that experiment before. And always give careful instructions for the use of unfamiliar apparatus at the beginning of an experiment and ensure they are followed. So, for instance, your learners are using a radioactive source for their experiment. Make sure you provide them with careful instructions and ensure strict compliance of these instructions in the laboratory. And enforce the correct procedure in using main supplies of gas and electricity. So, experiments that make use of electricity, ensure that your learners comply to the use of such items or such materials in the laboratory. And do not allow students to conduct unauthorized experiments in the laboratory. So anytime your students come to the laboratory, ensure that the activity that they are intended to do is what they are doing. So what are some of the safety rules and some equipment that you need in the laboratory in order to prevent accidents from happening in the lab? And for you, the teacher, you must display the list of rules, the do's and don'ts. They should be prominently displayed both inside the laboratory and outside the laboratory. So in front of the lab, the do's and don'ts in the laboratory can be on the door, so that before students will even enter, they will have to read. And inside the laboratory too, it should be pasted there. And inform all students of the location of all safety equipment. So let your learners know the location of the fire extinguisher, so that should there be an accident, a fire outbreak, they can just locate the fire extinguisher. And you must also teach them how to use such equipment. So if it is a fire extinguisher, you can get a resource person from the Ghana National Fire Service in your district to come and teach your learners how to use the fire extinguisher. And a physics laboratory should contain the following safety equipment. There should be fire extinguishers, like we just mentioned, fire blankets, as well as first aid kits. So let's look at class control in the laboratory. And you as a teacher, you should understand that in the physics laboratory, you take full control. And so because you take full control, you must ensure that there is quiet and orderly behavior of your students in the laboratory. Eating and drinking should be prohibited in the physics laboratory. It is a laboratory for practical sessions. It is not a canteen, so always insist that your learners should not eat and drink in the laboratory. And learners should not also take any colorless liquid and drink. They should not presume or perceive any colorless liquid they see in the laboratory to be water. So always insist that no drinking is allowed in the laboratory. No eating is also allowed in the laboratory. And in this connection, you should ensure that students keep the laboratory as tidy as possible. Now, students, in this session, we have considered the guidelines to be followed in order to ensure the safety of your students in the laboratory. And as we bring the session to an end, let us look at this question. Why is it not advisable for the physics teacher to leave a class unattended to in the laboratory? Think about this question and get an answer to it. You are going to present your answer in